The roots of Australia's peanut industry run deep in these red volcanic soils of the South Burnett region.
There is no shortage of peanuts in Kingaroy. They are not measured in ounces there, but in hundreds of tonnes.
The first commercial peanut crop was planted here in the early 1900s. This town has grown in the shade of its iconic peanut silos. The processing facility is one of the region's biggest employers, and most of Australia's peanuts come through here. Dairy giant Bega Foods now owns this facility, and for the last several years, Australian demand for peanuts has outstripped supply. About 70% of the nuts that roll through this facility are imported, which is something the company wants to change.
So our ambition as a great Australian food company is to really increase the level of Australian peanuts and become less reliant on imported peanuts.
Those ambitions are facing a big challenge: climate change. Rainfall patterns in this region have been shifting.
The trend for the amount of rain in the South Burnett region is unfortunately declining, as it has been since about 1920 overall. And we've seen declines of about 1.5 millimeters to 2 millimeters per year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over decades it actually has added up to quite a lot, as I think people have probably started noticing now.
Peanuts near Kingaroy are predominantly grown as a dryland crop and rely on good summer rain. Second-generation peanut farmer Wayne Weller has seen his seasons change drastically, both during and before the current drought.
Well, John, last year is the first year in 50 years that we haven't planted peanuts on this farm. And because of that, it was district-wide. There was very low plantings. There was poor seed available for this planting season, which led to us having to plant this below germination seed.
And the timing of your harvest this year is a bit unusual as well, isn't it?
Yes, we usually look for a rain event in January, February to set the peanuts. They flower and then they peg and set the peanuts. But this year that planting rain or setting rain didn't come until March. So therefore that pushed it out 8 to 10 weeks maturity, and then because of the shorter days, the cooler nights, they take longer to mature. Well, we're finding we're getting, instead of getting regular rainfalls, we're getting large amounts of rain and then large gaps between the rain events. We're getting about the same average rainfall in the year, but the pattern of getting the rain has changed.
This year, less rain in key planting and growing months has pushed harvest a month behind schedule, leaving crops exposed to early winter frost.
Well, I think it could be cyclical, John. I think we've only been here a couple of hundred years, white man, and we don't know what the weather patterns have been in the past. But we're thinking that it could be the norm, so we're just going to have to adjust our management.
Farmers here hope the drought will ease and the reliability of seasons will come back. Scientists say a return to the way things were is unlikely.
So I definitely say it is cyclical. The rain will come. However, will it be as reliable as it used to be? Probably not. Will you get as much as you used to? Maybe not. Will it be more patchy? Could be. So, to bank on going back to that normal that you remember probably isn't realistic.
In a way, that creates a certain identity crisis for this town famous for its nuts. One local synonymous with Kingaroy nuts is Robert Patch, the peanut van man.
Hey bloke, how you going? Good. You come on in. This back to the good old days where, as a kid, we used to stoop the peanuts. That means you just pull all the peanuts out of the ground and put them into piles like that there. So, as a kid growing up, 50, 60 years ago, we used to be worried about all the weeds in the peanuts because it had rained for a week, constant type of thing, and the weeds would get out of control and the peanuts would grow well too. But in the later years, it hasn't even been enough rain to grow weeds, if you know what I mean. So I don't know whether it's changing permanently or whether we're going back to dry seasons or whether it's been dry seasons, I don't know. But it's been tough.
Robert has been selling Aussie nuts around the country for decades, and if local supply stops, so will he.
My word, we've promised that if we had to sell any overseas peanuts at all, we'd shut the doors. We would not we will not sell overseas peanuts.
Other processors are also eager to see the domestic crop stay and even grow. Kingaroy farmers will account for 20% of the peanuts sent to Bega this year, and the company's looking at ways to increase that share.
Plant breeding is really what we're focused on, and that's all about producing peanuts which have that shorter maturity cycle. And by having that shorter maturity cycle, it means that they're less exposed to the elements and the need for water isn't as great.
At a speed breeding facility just outside of town, researchers are developing varieties for the future. Bega and the Grains Research and Development Corporation are working together to breed varieties for an increasingly volatile climate.
The key thing for growers is for them to have options. As we know, seasons are variable, and I think we've been able to try and provide growers with different options for different planting windows and also different rain events or climatic conditions.
Disease-resistant genes are also being selected for wetter conditions because peanuts have largely shifted to irrigated production. Bundaberg is now a key growing region, and irrigators there grow the majority of Australian peanuts in rotation with sugarcane. The trade-off for irrigation is high input costs, and of course the critical need for water remains.
If they can keep the prices up for us and making us want to keep sending peanuts down and see what they can do about helping us get water so we can grow peanuts for them. That's probably going to be, at the end of the day, we need water to grow peanuts here.
Farmers in Kingaroy say the same and see investment in a large water irrigation scheme for growers as a key part of the industry's future.
The short-term answer, I think, around here is irrigation if we want to continue to grow peanuts in the South Burnett. But that becomes expensive with the added costs. But I think the long term is plant breeding, breed varieties that can cope with the changing conditions.
The local council says the region is in a water crisis. It's making a case for federal funding for a permanent water solution to save its farmers.
A reliable water scheme, definitely. I think, but that in itself opens a whole new bucket of worms because who will pay for it and the capital cost up front. It's a long-term thing.
Farmers in this region are facing a future with less water, not more. And production here isn't as reliable as it used to be. So the industry is looking elsewhere for its future, even to some places that may seem a little left field.
This is Australia's peanut frontier. Crops in the arid red centre of Australia may seem unlikely.
I can say they call me the nutty melon farmer now. They used to call me the watermelon man, now they call me the nutty melon farmer.
Here at this watermelon farm, production is sustained by vast water aquifers under the desert's surface. This is Paul's second year of growing commercial peanuts in rotation with his usual melons in Central Australia.
We get a lot of surprises when people learn that we're growing peanuts out here because they associate peanuts with Queensland and Kingaroy. So yeah, a lot of people are surprised, but people were surprised when we came here 13 years ago growing watermelons too, and that's been very successful. So I think the peanuts, once we've got the growing worked out, I think it'll be another success story for Central Australia.
Under centre pivots and the dry season heat of the territory, these peanut bushes thrive.
It's very similar climate to Texas, West Texas, that has very similar soil and similar climate to here, and they grow, I think it's a couple million tonnes of peanuts in West Texas. So yeah, this climate is ideal for peanuts.
The only problem here is the tyranny of distance, which means it's costly to send peanuts to Kingaroy for processing. Paul is building his own shelling facility to reduce freight costs and make future production more viable in this region.
I think it's got good potential. Like, we've invested pretty heavily in irrigation, the centre pivots and bores and now the processing plant. So we think there is a future for peanuts.
At the historic home of the industry, farmers have their doubts about the future, though some refuse to crack under the pressure of a changing climate.
Oh, it definitely makes me sad. There's no doubt about that, because the peanut industry's been good to us. And we've enjoyed a great life here. And I think, it would be sad to see it go altogether, but I don't think it will. I think it'll survive. I think it really will. It may not be as we see it today, but it'll survive.